Or what do you think of with mental health? What are some things?
Depression.
Okay, yeah, depression. Stress. We're going to talk a lot about stress. That's a huge factor in either positive mental health or negative mental health.
Anxiety.
Yeah.
I think that we look down on those, not look down. We categorize people with mental health as being not as sick of those as physical health.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually.
We categorize it differently.
Yeah, we definitely do. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's very true. We do a lot for our physical health and as far as like a medical setting, those sorts of things, but it's a lot more difficult with our mental health. Anything else? Oh, there we go. Oh. Okay. So like I mentioned earlier, this is the medical or the Institute of Mental Health in definitions of mental health and mental illness. Mental health is one's general state of well-being and state of mind, something that should be looked after. Whereas mental illness is something that disrupts your mental state, interrupts how you feel, think, communicate, and behave. And so today, like I mentioned, a lot of things when we said, what do you think of when you hear the word mental health? We definitely went to this illness piece, this disorders and things. But we're going to talk about more of like our mental health and that one general state of well-being. And we're going to talk about when you have maybe some difficult feelings and things. We're going to talk about kind of how to cope with those and some resources and things. But generally, for the sake of this presentation, that's what we're going to focus on today. And then you can kind of see our different topics and things. So there are 8 dimensions of wellness. We have social, emotional, financial, physical, environmental, I'm going to make sure I remember, intellectual, spiritual. So I think I got them all: social, emotional, physical, financial, spiritual, intellectual, mental, and environmental. So all of these different elements in some way affects our health, and mental health is just one piece of that. I really like, this is the World Health Organization's definition of mental health, and it is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. And then last, another definition of mental health is psychological state of well-being characterized by continuing personal growth, a sense of purpose in life, self-acceptance, and positive relations with others. So I've shared with you 3 different definitions of mental health so far. Were there any themes about kind of those definitions that I shared that you could pick up on?
Back up one slide.
Okay.
Where it says normal stresses of life, who determines normal stress?
You do.
Yeah.
I do.
You are normal.
Well, and that's a great question. So sometimes, okay, so normal stress of life. My husband's out of town. I have a 3-year-old. I have to get her up and get her to daycare in the morning. And by 7:30, which is not that early, I'm up at 5 every morning. But that's what I would consider a normal stress of life, is having to get her up, get her ready, and she is very obstinate about what she wants to wear. She's very particular, like she's 3, like rules my life, right? So like that's a stressful thing for me in the morning. That could not be something that's stressful for anybody, but that's a normal stress of life. Now, other things, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. I would say other not normal are like, oh yes, please.
While you're here, does a supervisor over a crew kind of have a little bit of responsibility to monitor his crew or his or her crew to see if maybe they are stressed, or do you know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think? Do you feel like your supervisors have a responsibility to look over your stress?
I'm his supervisor and I'm saying hell no. That's on him.
And I'm saying no also.
I do believe that we have responsibility towards each other, and I'm not sure it's just the supervisor.
Mhm.
I feel like if somebody's having a bad day because of something maybe out of the normal that either come to your counter or your desk or in your home life, you probably have. It would help if somebody realizes that and steps in. But I still, my personal feeling, the mental health has to be mainly, you've got to find a way to do it. That's why normal for me isn't normal for anybody else.
Right. Oh,
Finish that.
oh, okay.
Go on across.
Dang, I wish that. So this gentleman just shared, for those who are online, he just shared that he felt as a supervisor, yes, we have the responsibility to watch over for each other. And if there's extra workload in the workforce, yes, a supervisor may need to step in and kind of make sure stress is manageable as far as a work responsibility. So correct me if I'm misstating. But then if things are happening personally at home, yes, we do need to watch out for each other and everything, but ultimately it's up to the person to figure out how they need to cope with whatever they've got going on personally. So that was what was shared. So that's okay. Anything else? Does that answer your question?
Yes.
And we're going to talk about personal ways to cope with things. So a couple of things that I thought about with the different definitions that I shared is it is a lot of personal responsibility. There is this theme of one, being able to cope with stresses of life, having a sense of purpose. So that all comes internally. And ultimately we are the only thing we really have control over in life, right? And so that was one theme that I picked up from those definitions. Any other things or anything from the definitions that we've shared? Okay. So here are some different elements of mental health. So these are kind of the things that these are known across the industry of the things that make up our mental health. So having a positive view of ourselves or positive self-esteem. So for as an example, if you've had a past traumatic experience, your self-esteem or self-acceptance in some way could have been thrown off by that traumatic experience. So maybe if somebody has experienced like true trauma like rape, or could even be maybe if someone's a military, a veteran, something like that, some kind of past trauma. That makes it difficult to cope with those normal stresses of life that we mentioned earlier. Personal growth. So that one is just kind of goes along with that kind of one's belief in a purpose of life. So just kind of having that ability to continue to just grow as a person. Positive relationships or relations. So again, that's just being able to have positivity around us, to be able to, have good, healthy relationship with those around, ones that aren't abusive or extra taxing on us, that sort of thing. And then autonomy. So a sense of self-determination and the ability to control one's life. So those are generally kind of the elements that make up one's mental health. There are many factors that influence an individual's mental health, and I really like this graph. It's not technically a graph, I don't know what you call it, but it just really shows how so many aspects of our life really do tie together and really do affect what our mental health is. There's a study that was done in the 70s of people in the US, and they found that the critical areas of one's mental health are working life, family life, and the social role that one occupies in the community. And any negative experiences in these areas, such as an unreasonable boss or a turbulent family life, can really reduce one's overall sense of well-being. Another really huge important influence to talk about is stress. So in general, people experience stress when the demands placed on them exceed the resources they have available to meet those demands. Significant sources of stress, such as like divorce, death of a spouse, loss of a job, illness in the family, those sorts of things, they can overwhelm a person's ability to cope and function effectively. Stress also affects our physical health along with our mental health. And those who cope poorly with stress, they become irritable, socially withdrawn, and emotionally unstable. So stress is really a huge part of this, and then that can lead to that anxiety, depression, those sorts of things that we talked about earlier that are more of our mental health disorders or mental illnesses and things. And I'm not gonna, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not gonna really talk about a lot of different mental health disorders, but some common ones that just, if you want to know more, I can provide information, but anxiety and depression are probably the ones you hear most about, but anxiety kind of has its own realm of additional disorders. So there's generalized anxiety, there's phobias, panic disorders, OCD, those sorts of things. They fall in the anxiety realm. So genetics is the third one that kind of plays into. Oh,
No.
are you? Our phones are so tricky. Like you can think something, and then all of a sudden you've got an ad for. So you read our mind. No, you're fine. So also genetics can also determine kind of one's levels, oftentimes, of mental health. And so it can be kind of displayed as like a characteristic almost of well-being. So research has found that although people's moods change in response to both positive or negative events, the effects wear off over time. So for example, somebody who's won the lottery, they may be happy and excited, but as time goes on, they may feel happier at that time, but as time goes on, if they're just kind of more of a just apathetic kind of person, just not showing a whole lot of emotions, eventually they will go back to that just because it's characteristically, kind of just genetically, that's where they're at. And then they've also found that genes do kind of play a role in like mood swings and whether or not somebody's just pretty even keel or they're a little bit more excitable, could be another word for that. So maintaining our mental health. So with all this in mind, you can still gain tools to maintain your mental health aside from the different stresses of life, whatever normal is, or maybe even not normal if you're having to deal with a divorce or a death or some of those things that aren't normal parts of our daily life that happen to us sometimes personally. And these are the 4 that we're going to kind of go over. And I'm not going to give, well, yeah, we'll just go through them. So the first one we're going to talk about is coping. So the ability to cope is crucial for mental health. This is probably the most important thing. And just like we talked about earlier, like ultimately it's up to individuals to figure out how they cope best, what they need to do in order to cope with what they have going on in their life. And so coping means successfully. So the key word there is successfully dealing with problems that arise in life. And people definitely vary widely in their coping skills and how they cope with adversity. And definitely people are, it works for some and it doesn't work for others. They're a lot more effective for one and not for another. But research has shown that people can learn new coping skills. So adults can be taught skills to cope with different life stresses such as job loss and divorce. Teaching people coping skills before they encounter adversity, especially before some kind of crisis, is an effective method for preventing poor mental health, and ultimately maybe somebody having an onset of a mental health disorder. And another thing too, like coping skills also gives people more of that self-esteem, self-acceptance like we talked about earlier, and just kind of that part of having a purpose in life and that autonomy of like, you know, I'm in control of my life. And these are just some examples. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but some people have more emotion-focused coping skills where others may have more problem-solving focused coping skills. So I mean, you're welcome to read those, but I just wanted to share those as examples. Kind of the second thing that we talked about of maintaining our mental health is having a strong support system, social support and emotional support. So social, whew, gonna take a deep breath here. Okay, so the second tool is social support. So that can be either from family or friends. And that is more kind of in the form of maybe you lost a job and your friend calls you up and says, hey, I heard about this job at the county, you know, or whatever. So that those sorts of things. Maybe somebody lost their home or something like that. Hey, come stay with me for a while till you get back on your feet. So that's more of that social support piece. And so obviously if you have a solid support system around you, that helps a lot in times of adversity. And then the second, which I didn't include in here on this PowerPoint, is emotional support. So that's just calling up your friends, saying, hey, I'm just having a rough day. Maybe it is just be like, hey, this is going on, coworker to boss. This is going on. Like, I just need somebody to listen to me for 5 minutes, you know. Even just think, like, when you have something that's really weighing on you and you're finally able to share that with somebody, how do you feel?
So we have a comment
Oh.
from chat.
Oh, good.
One of the employees mentioned that they have a heavy punching bag in their workout room and it's the best stress reliever. Highly recommended, one for every home. I thought that was a great comment.
Yeah, that is a great comment. And we're going to talk about physical activity here in just a sec, because that is, I actually took my cute little niece, she was boxing for a sec, so I went to her class a little bit. And that was like the greatest stress relief I have ever experienced. Like, I enjoy exercising. It's not like, but for whatever it is, something about punching something just makes you feel good.
My wife has one of them and she dresses up like me.
Yeah, there you go. I had one class that I went to, and you know, like the punching deals that look like somebody. Yeah, we were always taping faces and all sorts of things on them. So whoever was on the chat that made that, thank you for that comment, because we are going to talk about that in a sec. So aside from emotional support, somebody you can call and just kind of confide in ways. Also opposite, if you are having, maybe you don't have positive emotional support, that can be detrimental to your mental health as well. So negative social interactions, constant criticism, belittling from other people, that also can definitely undermine somebody's mental health. Okay, then third is physical activity and relaxation techniques or meditation. I think it's great. Your challenges are going to be gratitude, meditation. I don't remember, but I think that as time has gone on, there's no, like, we definitely, just like whoever mentioned in the chat, how they found that physical activity has been a really great stress relief. I don't think that that's any surprise to any of us here. But it's amazing when you prioritize your physical health, how that improves and can help your mental health significantly. And it also improves your self-esteem, kind of those elements that we talked about earlier as well. And then relaxation techniques or meditation, those sorts of things. Just it's been described before as depression is living in the past and anxiety is living in the future. And so relaxation techniques, meditation, those sorts of things are meant to bring you back to the present because you can't do anything about what's happened in the past, and you can't worry about what's going to happen in the future because you have no control over it. And so I think that that's why one of that relaxation techniques, meditation, that sort of thing is so powerful for our mental health, because it brings us back to the present. So there's a couple of things just kind of in closing here. Really, it's all about finding that balance. We talked about that, our well-being, our 8 dimensions of well-being. You know, really it comes down to balance. And achieving mental health is about striking a balance in our social, physical, spiritual, economical, and mental aspects of life. Reaching a balance is a learning process, and it's ongoing. At times, we may tip the balance too much in one direction and have to find our footing again. Our personal balance is highly individual, and our challenge is to stay mentally healthy by finding and keeping that balance. And then I just kind of categorize that as well. And then to really kind of end, if you do find yourself in a place where you're not in good mental health, and a place of good mental health, a place where you feel you're feeling in control, that you're able to make rational decisions, all of those things, it is okay to ask for help. It's okay to be like, I feel like I'm losing it. You know, it's okay to find help and to reach out. Actually, there's a lot of strength. And talk about awesome self-esteem. If you're able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I need help. Like something's going on. Like I can't seem to make this happen on my own. I can't seem to, you know, be doing okay. Like there is so much strength in being able to go to somebody and be like, I'm really needing some help here. As part of my job too, I do suicide prevention. And suicide is a big part of mental health. When people don't get the help they need, they oftentimes do end their life, unfortunately. And these are some different resources that the health department has, but we also promote these. And I know, like through your insurance and everything, there's a lot of resources. One thing that I will promote, and I advocate for this because oftentimes people forget, but do you guys have an EAP? An employee assistance program? You don't? Okay, so never mind. But maybe if you are helping somebody, that could be a suggestion to them, because sometimes insurance or as a benefit, employers offer, it's like free mental health counseling sessions. But just something to think about. But the health department has compiled a mental health resource directory. So if you find that you are in need of some mental health professional, that is it's by no means comprehensive, but it is a compilation of the different, and I'll send these all out so you'll have them, but it's just a compilation of the different mental health providers in Cashbox, Elder Rich County. And I know that you guys would probably go down to Cash. I apologize, I don't know your stuff here. So how does that work? Do you guys mostly go down to Logan? Probably, because you just have Soda and Grace, and then you have to go over to.
Our insurance is tied with IHC, so we
Mostly are heading. Okay.
And then Chelsea, we also prepared a resource flyer.
Oh, awesome.
Local Idaho, but Cache Valley, that same place will be receiving.
Perfect. Okay. And then there is also some other, I provided you, this is an app. This was compiled by a different insurance company, so I can't take credit for it. But like if you like apps and you find yourself needing some extra things, like there are some good apps there for you to look into. That My Strength is on there. There's a Safe UT app. That one is specific to people who may be thinking of taking their life. That's actually for young people, but it's a way to submit anonymous tips either for themselves or others. But it's still something to think about if you maybe have young people. We do have a local crisis line that the health department mans 24/7, and that's that line there. And then the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. It will be starting in July. It will be a 988 number. But Are there any questions about any of that? I'm going to end with a story. Okay. Not long ago, a young couple was on an airplane with a new baby. As the plane prepared for takeoff, the flight attendants gave their usual pre-flight safety instructions: how to buckle the seatbelt, how to find the nearest exit. The father was only half listening until he heard this instruction about what to do if oxygen levels dropped. Secure your oxygen mask first, and then assist others. Holding his helpless infant in his arms, the father was unexpectedly stunned by these words. How could he possibly put an oxygen mask on himself before putting one on his son? It seemed so selfish, so contrary to the natural instincts in a father's heart. Shouldn't you always help your child first? But the more he thought about it, the more he realized that he couldn't offer his baby any safety at all if he wasn't safe himself. He began to see that the principle applies not just to oxygen levels, but also to spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being. Everything he hoped to provide for his precious child. Self-neglect does no good for others any more than self-centeredness does. On the other hand, strengthening yourself spiritually, emotionally, and physically puts you in a better position to offer the help you want to give. There's nothing selfish about caring for yourself so you can provide better care for others. That's what makes self-care different from self-absorption. It's motivated by love, and it doesn't have to be time-consuming to be effective. Often a few consistent moments repeated over time make all the difference. Just as simple exercise builds physical strength, daily prayer, or however you improve your spirituality or are spiritual, improves your spiritual resilience. Daily planning helps us prepare mentally for the day's demands. It shouldn't be a choice between caring for yourself and caring for others, but both are needed and they work in harmony. By doing things that fortify your body, mind, and spirit, you help those around you even as you help yourself. This is how authentic and simple self-care becomes other care. That's what a young father learned while sitting on an airplane holding the baby. And it's what we all can learn as we seek to truly bless and help the people we love. Any questions? Any comments? Oh my gosh. Oh wow.
So this is from the county. We just want to thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Wow, I didn't
share.
share.
We do appreciate it though.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you guys have any more questions for her?
Yeah, or comments. I appreciate the input that you guys have already. I'd love to hear any comments or comments.
I think the one thing I would say is that it needs to be something that we do talk about. Like, it's okay. It used to have such a stigma that it's not okay to admit that you might be feeling sad or you're struggling with something or anxiety is kind of controlling your life at the moment. And I think that's the biggest message today, is just to know that it is okay to ask someone if you feel like maybe they need help, or for yourself to ask for help.
Agreed. I think everybody needs help at some point in their lives.
Yeah. Thank you, Chelsea.
Yeah, thank you. So we're also going to starting May what?
May 1.
May 1. We're going to start our mental wellness challenge. And what you do is you have 4 challenges: a gratitude one, a meditation one, a thinking positive one, and getting outside in the sun one. They can't see me? There you go. I'm sorry. So therefore, I have copies. What you do is you make a goal to do you'll have two weeks of 2 challenges. So it'll be 4 weeks total. And if you do that and get them back to me, then how much is the gift card?
25.
There's your answer.
How much?
I was just gonna get free lunch somewhere. I was just gonna get gift card somewhere, free lunch. So yeah,
$25 gift card.
$25 gift card for doing that. Awesome. Yes, Lynn.
Question, sitting on the lawnmower, does that count as sitting out in the sun?
Yes, it does. So his question was, sitting out on the lawnmower, does that qualify as getting outside? Yes, it does. As long as you're outside and not in your garage, that's fine.
That's a speech therapy you'll ever get. Yes, there you are.
Any other questions? I know I didn't describe it very well. So you'll pick 2 challenges for the month, and you do each of the challenges for 2 weeks.
And there's 4 different challenges.
And there's 4 different challenges to choose from. So you don't have to do all of it, just 2 of them. Any other questions?
So